Hello YouTube, in this video I'm going to be reviewing the push-pull leg program by Jeff Nippard. I want to precise first that it is clearly stated that it's an hypertrophy focused workout in the program title, and so this is not strength focused, so I can critique it as a bodybuilder. As for the source, I found the thing that seemed to be the most complete. I actually cross-referenced several programs to find the right one. I do believe it's supposedly a paid program, so it's behind a paywall. That being said, I found it online, so I apologize if I'm breaching some sort of copyright here, but it seems to be publicly available. And so since I review every single publicly available program, the same goes for this one. So we'll start immediately. I'm not going to talk too much about push-pull leg. In the description, I'm going to link the vid I made about the template so that you can learn how to run it optimally. Here, I want to focus more on the exercise selection of the program, the weights, the intensity, etc. So in terms of the workout plan, on Monday you have push 1, on Tuesday you have pull 1, on Wednesday you have legs, on Thursday you rest, rinse, repeat, but you do a push 2 and pull 2. So there is a variation for the push and the pull, an AB and a day B, if you will. In terms of the way it is ran, he actually goes through the push-pull leg, which in my opinion is the worst iteration of the PPL template, because you do push, you do pull the next day, and after that you do legs, which means that pull for the most part is going to fatigue the legs if done properly, and after that you have to do your squats with fatigued legs. We'll see that in this program it's not an issue, and we'll also see that it's not a good thing that it's not an issue, because there is an error, a major error, might I say, with the exercise selection for the pull day. So let's get into that. Push 1 starts with bench press, 4 sets of 4 to 6. So evolving rep range, pretty standard. A 4 set of 4 to 6 is a small difference between the rep ranges, so you're going to sandbag a bit, but that's not an issue at all. And it's at an RPE of 7 to 8, okay? So this is great. You open the push with a strength hook and it's an horizontal press. No problem with this. Then an incline cable fly, 3 sets of 12 to 15. No problem here either. It's a good movement for the chest to finish the chest. Some people will get a good upper chest contraction on it, some others won't, but it's a good movement. We follow up with standing dumbbell press, 4 sets of 10 to 12. It's interesting that it's standing. Usually when you see people who do standing presses, it's with a barbell. Here it's with the dumbbells. It also means that you're going to have to get the dumbbells up. And that can be a little bit complicated for some people. So this can also be done seated if needed. There's not really that much of a difference. It's really a question of preferences. The rep range is great. It's a lot of volume for a vertical press, but it complements the bench press extremely well. No problem here. After that, Egyptian lateral raise, 4 sets of 12 to 15. Great movement as well. You just hit the shoulders, you hit a lot of front delts. The front delt is cooked now, you don't really need to work it anymore. Now you can focus on medium and lateral heads, which is what that is going to accomplish. It follows by a tricep push down, 4 sets of 12 to 15, same logic. The 2 presses really burnt the triceps and you're just finishing them nicely. And then a face pull, 4 sets of 20, that's standard. At the end of a push day, it's great to do some face pulls to reinforce proper posture. So at first glance, this is actually a very solid day. There are certain things that I want to talk about though. First off, there is a distinct lack of long head of the tricep work. And that is going to result in unbalanced arms, because the long head of the tricep is the biggest portion, it's the medius portion of the arm. So the tricep press downs could be replaced with behind the head cable extensions or skull crushers. When you look at the amount of strength work, there is some bench press, yes, and then there is some stomach dumbbell press, but if you look at the rep range of the dumbbell press, it's 10 to 12. That's not strength work, it's more of a volume type of thing. Which means that this is going to be good for novices, but intermediates to late intermediate advanced people are going to potentially need to push the intensity more. Keep in mind that this is a program that is for, it is targeted towards intermediates, which I understand because I would never prescribe that amount of isolation for a novice simply because it's not needed for them. You want them to focus more on compounds and just have more compact sessions in a sense. So that's sort of my critique with this. If you are someone who needs that intensity, you can take the standing dumbbell press and shrink it a little bit, do a lower rep range. It's going to be perfectly fine. And I would encourage you to keep it in that order. I like to have the bench press and standing dumbbell press separated by the incline cable fly so that you can leave some rest, you can leave some time for the shoulders to rest. That is actually quite smart. And then after that, you can just follow with the rest of the training. In terms of supersets, you don't superset the bench press and the standing dumbbell press. You don't superset the incline cable fly either. Although, if you wanted, you could superset the incline cable fly with some chin-ups because, again, there is no long head of the tricep work. There's also no bicep work. And we'll see later that it's because there is bicep work on the pull day, which follows it afterwards. But a few chin-ups are not going to kill you. So you can follow that up with that. And then you can really superset the lateral raise, the tricep press downs, and the face pulls if you want. So you can do your strength work, then the cable flies, then the standing dumbbell press, which is the second strength work, then a giant set of raises, press downs, face pulls. That's going to save you a lot of time. You don't need to rest in between the exercises. So that's one. In terms of pull one, you start with one arm lat pull in, which is called a pre-activation. Now, this is extremely specific and not everyone needs that. It's not really necessary. This is not going to lead to any hypertrophy gains at all. So you can feel free to just take it out of the program if needed. Let me just go back to the push one for a second. I also want to mention that there is no ab isolation and there's no calf work. We'll see that this becomes a problem later, but if you want to slap in some of that on that day, you can and you should. So back to the pull day. So the one arm lat pull in, I mean, he does that because it's immediately before pull-ups for people who don't feel the lats in the pull-ups. But to me, it's not really a question of activation. It's a question of form. Once you're tucked in and the scapula is retracted and you pull with the back, you're going to feel your back. The lats will be engaged. So proper technique can save you a lot of time. You don't need those sets. So the pull-ups or lat pull-downs, which it's a rotation, he's giving you an option. These are not the same movements. They train the same muscles, but not in the same way. I really encourage people to do pull-ups instead and then weighted pull-ups. Lat pull-downs are okay, but they shouldn't be a main movement and they certainly should not be a strength work movement. Never at the start of a workout. So pull-ups, 3 sets of 6 to 8. RP 7, 8. Okay, no problem with that, that's good. Might be a problem for people who go from body weight to weighted because it's going to be complicated to match the progressive overload with the RPEs. But the rep range is wide enough that this is not going to lead to injury. I would say, however, that even if they're weighted and really intense, you don't need to start a pull day with pull-ups. It's not necessary. What opens a pull day is a deadlift. For 90% of people, you should start with a deadlift, sumo, behind the back, Jefferson, conventional, block pull if you want, if you don't have the mobility, but you start with a pull from the floor. It's what makes the most sense. It's what's going to light up the entire body, warm you up nicely, and then you can just continue with the rest of the day. So I would pull a deadlift in there. Then you can follow that up with weighted pull-ups. And the cool effect too is that the weighted pull-up are going to decompress the spine that could have been hammered a little bit too much by the deadlift. But we'll see that he doesn't make you do deadlift on the pull day because the leg day follows afterwards, but that's for later. After that, MEADOWS rows, 3 sets of 10 to 12. Okay, no problem with that. After that, lat pull down, 3 sets of 12 to 15. Now I'm starting to have an issue. This is the fourth lat movement. It's the third vertical pull, and it's the fourth back movement. To me, it's too much. Get rid of that and focus on progression. You can just keep the pull up and do the MEADOWS rows afterwards as an horizontal pull and stay with that. It's plenty of work for the lats if you work intensely enough. And that's not even mentioning the one arm lat pull in as pre-activation. After that, there's a superset 1. So I suppose it's superset with the pull downs, which is face pulls, so more face pulls. You can't go wrong with face pulls, it's okay. Superset 2, reverse pec deck for the real darts, no problem. Superset 3, bend pull aparts. So these are extremely low impact movements that really can be supersetted with whatever. So I have no issues with them, they're great. And if you just get rid of them, you can really superset those movements with the MEADOWS rows. But we'll get to that. After that, easy bar bicep curl, 3 sets of 6 to 8. hallelujah. Someone who actually has intense rep ranges for the bicep curl, the easy bar is a great way to curl properly and strictly, and that's going to blow up your bicep. So great. And then optional incline dumbbell curl, 2 sets of 15 to 20. I personally don't like that movement at all. It's one of the movements I hate the most for the bicep. I've explained it in the Hypertrophy Q&A if you want to understand why. But in terms of organization and exercise selection, the end of the workout is okay. And the workout in itself is okay within the context of the training. But to me, it's missing a deadlift. If I were to reorganize that day, I would have you start with a deadlift, then you do your pull-ups. You don't need to superset the deadlift, you don't superset the pull-ups. You can, if you want, do knee raises or leg raises after the pull-ups. You do your MEADOWS rows supersetted with one of the 3 supersets. Then you do your easy bar bicep curls that you could really superset with a long head of the tricep movement if you didn't work it on the push day. And after that, if you want to just really finish the biceps, just do chin-ups. Body weight, you don't need to weight them. And that is also going to serve as more work for the lats since you have removed some of the exercises from the rotation. So deadlift, 1 set of 5, then your pull-ups, then your MEADOWS rows supersetted with face pulls, then your easy bicep curl supersetted with triceps or calves or abs, then optionally, some sort of isolation movement or chin-up for the bicep, plus nothing, plus, I don't know, abs or calves again if you want to. That's a finisher. That's what is going to be cancelled if you just want to go home and you're done with the training. Okay, now let's talk about legs. Legs open with squats, so that's a good sign. 3 sets of 4 to 6, excellent rep range for the squat, I really like it. Followed by Romanian deadlift. So, for the people who watch the channel, it's a match made in heaven. That's a really good way to work both the quads and the posterior chain effectively. Sorry about that. The Romanian deadlift is 3 sets of 8. I like it. I would like to open the rep range into a 3 sets of 8 to 12 because I find that if you do it properly, you can really push the bill on the Romanian deadlift and go intense. And so an evolving rep range makes a ton of sense here. But I like the fact that it's 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of Romanian deadlift. That way, you're not going to really cook the lower back. You're not going into 4 sets. And it's a difference of 2 sets, but it actually does compound over time. So that's great. After that, optional, you can do Romanian deadlift with single legs, 3 sets of 10. Okay, that's a great option. It's not necessary, but it's a great option. After that, single leg extensions, 3 sets of 10, single leg lying leg curl, 3 sets of 8, calf raise, seated calf raise. Okay, so this is typical of a leg day. It's every single leg day I review on this channel is the same. It's a squat, a hip hinge, and then some machine stuff. And you know what? I don't have an issue with that because it's actually a good leg day. This is much better than some of the fluff I see some people do, or people who just don't train legs altogether, which is a choice that you can make if you want to. The meat of this and the thing that cannot be removed is squat and Romanian deadlift. So it's a heavy knee flexion followed by a variation of a hip hinge. And those two actually tend to be the best. After that, for the rest, you could really just go home at this point and 90% of the gains are made. So now you have to think smartly. What can I put at the end of that workout that is going to keep me healthy, keep me progressing, and give me carryover? Is a leg extension going to give me that? The answer is no. So you can really remove them. I have a different opinion on the leg curl because to me the leg curl hits the hamstring in a way that the hip hinge sometimes cannot get to. So that you can keep. If you want to do single leg work because you like it, you can keep it as well. It's up to you. I have an issue also with the fact that the entirety of the calf work is concentrated on the legs, which means that if you do his push-pull leg 6 times a week, so 2 cycles of push-pull leg, it means that you do calves twice a week. That's too low of a frequency for calves. Calves can be hit 4 times a week, 5 times a week. So spread the calf work. Do your seated calf work on the leg day, because you're going to be tired, and do your standing calf raise on the pull day or the upper day. They really need that volume and frequency because they don't have the work capacity to be hit intensely. And the issue is that here, 3 sets of 10 to 12 and then 3 sets of 20 for the calf, you might reach a point where your baseline is shot. So you're going to reduce the volume on the only day where you train them, and that becomes an issue down the line. So if we look at the lower days in a bulk, like if we scope back, I do think that there is no justification for there not to be a deadlift on the pull day, on the pull one day. And the way to work around it would be to either not have the pull and the legs in that order, or to just have a rest day in between the two. You can just put a rest day in between the two. But the most efficient way to do that would be you can do your leg day first, then you do your push day, then you do your pull day, and then you take a rest. The reason why I sort of like to do it like this is because I have always found that squats tend to be more tiring because of the amount of actual loading, and therefore it's my preference to always prioritize the squat in terms of recovery aspect. But if you're the opposite, you can start with the pull, then the push, then the leg. You can do a pull, push, leg. That makes total sense as well. Then you rest, and then you start with the push again. That is a choice that is going to allow you to sneak in some deadlifts in there, which transform the pull day. The pull day as it is the worst day of this program because it really needs a heavy pull from the floor. Okay, now that that has been said, let's look at the push 2 and pull 2. Push 2 starts with an overhead press. So it's a play on vertical and horizontal pulls, and one is prioritized over the other on week A and week B. That's great for the people who want that. For the people who don't, they can continue to prioritize the bench, so they can open with a bench again with a different rep range, for example. Then after the bench, they can replace what used to be the dumbbell overhead press with the overhead press with a barbell, because in reality it's a different variation. The carryover exists, it's not maximal, but it exists, so that's something that you can do. The issue if you apply this is you're not going to really be able to follow that up with a close grip bench press, which is sort of the idea. So he has to do overhead press and close grip bench, which is a great combo, and the rep ranges are good. 4 sets of 6 to 8 is a lot of volume for the vertical press, but you need that volume. 3 sets of 8 to 10 is also a lot of volume, but again, it's for the horizontal press, it's needed. The only issue I might have with this is that it means that every single week, you only practice your standard bench once. For people who want to raise their strength on it, it's going to be a problem. So what you can do is, on push 2, you enter a variation, or rather, you enter a variation into a rotation with the close grip bench, which is going to be post bench. So on 1 out of 2 push 2, you're going to post bench instead of close grip bench. And in that case, put the post bench first, because you need to be fresh on it. Then do the overhead press. I have ran tests, and you can do it yourself at your gym if you want to. I have opened my day with overhead press, then benched, then overhead press, and looked at the difference in performance and strength loss. I've always found that if you start with the horizontal press, you're much fresher on the overhead press than the opposite. So take that to heart if you want, and actually apply it in your program. So that's for those 2 movements. And as I've said for the push 1, sometimes we like to sneak in an exercise in between those 2. So what you could be doing too is that he has inclined dumbbell flies in there. What could be done is you do your horizontal press, could be the close grip bench that I also would say should be prioritized over the overhead press for the majority of people. Follow that up with the inclined dumbbell fly, okay, as a standalone set in between. You can even superset the inclined dumbbell fly with some chin-ups, why not? And then you are going to put your overhead press so that you have a little bit of a buffer in between the two to recover a bit. Then there is 2 supersets, one with the rope, upright row, and one band lateral raise, which are good, both 2 good movements. And the thing is that the superset go with the inclined dumbbell fly. We're going to take that. We're going to relocate them, because the last movement is the 1 arm overhead tricep extension, which is out of all of these days, if I'm not mistaken, the only long head of the tricep hook, and that's not okay. So this one thing you're going to superset. So you're going to do the tricep extension supersetted with the lateral raise, for example. It works perfectly. It works like a charm. And that is for the push 2 day. This is actually a good day. I think that the push days I think in terms of understanding, Jeff is really strong on everything push, because he has a lot of experience in it. I'm not saying he lacks experience for the rest, but the rest looks a little bit more imprecise in my opinion. So the push days are pretty primal. You can really follow them to a T. I would say that there is a lack, as I said, of tricep hook, long kind of tricep. I don't see many shrugs either. Shrugs can really go everywhere. You can do them on legs, on push, on pull. The push-pull leg is really suited for trap hook. And so feel free to just superset it anywhere. And now we follow with the pull 2. So is he going to have his redemption arc and actually put a deadlift on the pull 2? The answer is no. There is still no deadlift on the pull 2, which is not okay. That being said, if we follow his template and you're going to have pull 1 and pull 2, you could have a deadlift on pull 1 and some sort of hip hinge on pull 2, like a good morning, another Romanian deadlift, a stiff leg deadlift, a deficit deadlift. It's up to you. Understand that with the push-pull leg, and I explained that in the video in the description, you gain a lot of freedom with the lower body days, because the lower body days are 2/3 of the program, and so they become the most relevant in terms of rotation. So what I just said needs to be kept in mind, because if you enter variations into rotations for the deadlifts, you have to keep in mind that there is a squat that is not going to change, because there's a pull 1 and pull 2, but there's only legs. There's no legs 1 and legs 2. It's only legs. And that's actually a good thing. Because since the legs remain static, the amount of volume and fatigue they bring remains static as well. And it's much easier to have the pull day interact with a leg day that is not moving. If the leg day had 2 iterations, A and B, it would be much more complicated. It would give more freedom and flexibility, but it's much harder to program. It's easier to program like this. You can have, if you want, a system that is going to allow you to have a pull day that is close to the legs without a heavy deadlift, so that you can create more space in between the squats and the day where you do your heavy deadlifts. That's going to be entirely up to you. I cannot make the choice for you, but once you understand that the push-pull leg template can be reorganized however you want with the rest days in between, you are going to start to really understand the beauty of that template in a sense. So let's get to pull 2 and then wrap it up. You start with an eccentric, accentuated lat pull down. I explained it before, you don't want a lat pull down as your strength hook. So you start with a hip hinge. You follow that up with a type of vertical pull if you want, or a row. It's in terms of pyramid and in terms of set classification, it's what makes the most sense to get gains. Then you do chest supported T-bar row. I personally hate that movement. It destroys my sternum. If you like it, do it. This is a movement that deloads the lower back and the posterior chain, which is sort of flabbergasting because it follows a lat pull down that also does that. What are you trying to deload from? That was awkward. Okay. So in this particular scenario, there's nothing to deload from, and so I don't really get it. Again, understand that within the days, there is a certain ability to do that if you had an heavier day that was before that. So in this case, it's normal because it's push, pull, leg, but even then, the legs follow. So are you trying to not be fatigued for the legs? It's not something that I would do. After that, you do one arm machine high row, 2 sets of 12 to 15, kneeling cable pullover, 2 sets of 15 to 20. Then there's shrugs finally, snatch grip, which I actually discovered snatch grip shrugs from Jeff Nippard, and I actually love them. It's a great movement. Then reverse pec deck, a lot of isolation basically, and that's too much isolation. A lot of that could just be done with a heavy row, 3 sets of heavy rows, and that would be taken care of. And after that, it's followed by an easy bar curl again, which is a great movement for the bicep, so it's good. And then another type of bicep curl, so arm LAT curl, etc. I do think that out of all of the days, this one is the worst day. Too much fluff. It really should be shrunk. If you have the ability to shrink a day, always shrink a day. And with a simple deadlift, followed by a vertical and horizontal pull, so rows or heavy pull-ups, you follow that up with like a seal row or chest supported T-bar row. And then you do a superset of snatch grip barbell shrugs, reverse pec deck, easy bar curls, you're done. Like that's it, you're done. You cut the program down by 40%, the day by 40%, and you made better gains. I guarantee you that you will get better gains from that practice. And so that is going to be my advice to you, is to just, you know, cut the fat. There's too much fat on this program. But in terms of push-pull leg, I say the push are good. The pull are a bit misengineered in a sense, and the legs are okay as I said, but for the legs, understand that the legs is where you can really place shrugs, you can really place the calf work, and all of the things that don't fit anywhere else, because in terms of tonnage, in terms of length, there is more space there. You see it with the push days. Well, the push days tend to be lengthier, but you have to have more exercises on these days. You don't really have a choice. And he sort of does that with the pulls too, but the pulls should be the in-between. Like the upper days should be the longest, the pull days should be in between, and then the legs days should be the shortest. But that doesn't mean that it needs to remain that way, because in terms of tonnage, it's pretty balanced. And so when there is space, when there is a lack of length and you have time for a certain day, make up for it. The issue with that program, and I'm going to finish with that, is that it looks like all of that trickles down into the pulls, which makes those days really ineffective. And the more you progress, the more sets you're going to have to add, hard sets, not just fluff, the tougher it's going to be to balance, because it's going to be, you spend a lot of time in the gym, especially since the supersets are not really optimized in this program. So with the review I made, I hope that I'm giving you a better chance at approaching that push-pull leg. Again, check the description if you want to understand it better. And when it comes to push-pull leg, there's the Reddit push-pull leg I also want to review, so that's eventually going to come on the channel as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.